So welcome to another level up. Today we're talking about how to use poker tips to improve your game at board games. Now the reason why I'm doing this is because I am not the most mathematical person in the world, and I basically am at a distinct disadvantage. And since I started playing board games after I fell out of the poker thing, but I still love poker, just the crowd and all that, it's a bit that's a story for another time. In fact, I'll put a link to a video below on my discussion on that. Basically, when I started playing board games, I found that by falling back on my poker skills, that it kind of evened the playing field for me, because most people playing board games, they tend to focus more on the board than the people playing them. To put it lightly, that they concentrate more on the game than the person. Where in poker, you usually play the person than the game. So I share that with you today. The first things out there to look at is the standard thing in poker. When you get your hand, like Texas Hold'em, no limit. You don't look at your hand first. You look at people looking at their cards. Same thing with board games. Usually when people are dealing out cards, don't pick up your hand first. Look at them, just especially look at their face, So when you pick up their hand, you just do this, pretend you're looking at your hand, but look at them. Now, people also have this tendency to arrange their cards and to give you a story. From poker, there's a famous player called Stu Unger, two-time WSOP champion, way back then, and they interviewed and they asked someone who knew him, because he died from cocaine use and all, that why is it he never arranged his cards in Gin Rummy, and he was considered the best in Gin Rummy. And Gin Rummy is basically, you get a big hand and people usually arrange it for combinations and all. They are Stewie, Stu Unger, why did he ever do it? And he said that, one, because he was a genius and he could just look at the hand and know the combinations, and two, that by looking at someone arrange their cards, could tell their combinations. Now, you might say that, well, not everybody's a genius, so how can I use this? Simple things, such as with Divonair, there were 4 combinations of cards, or most games, alright? When a person starts arranging their cards, first things first, they usually have relation, and depending on the game, for example, if you're playing Few Acres of Snow, people might want to start arranging by their attack cards. So if you usually see something like that, they take 2 cards or 1 card and then move it to the front or wherever. You take notice of where they move the hand. For example, the easiest one is always when they move it like that. Usually, these 3 that they move to, alright, he moved these 2 over here. This one is either usually a kind of like 1, 2, 3 kind of combination, or they're the same kind of card. So from that, you can deduce that. And I did that in a game of Divonair. One person got his hand, and he started arranging his cards like that. So these 3 are the same kind of card, right? He started looking at one part of the board, instantly telling me that he had basically around 3 cards of this on this part of the board. And I mentioned that, I mean, this is a board game, there's no money involved, so I just, happened to say, like, hey, you got 3 of the moon ones. I mean, the, spear ones. And he said after the game, yeah, you're right, I did. So, use it as you, it's there to use. So you might as well use that information. Because usually people are playing a board game, they kind of look at the board, they don't know they're doing all these signals and tells out. The other tip I have is for the negotiation based games, where when someone passes you something and says, like example, I promise this card's a gold, I'm not backstabbing you, I promise. This is just like the playing the person instead of the game kind of thing. In poker, where before accepting, just straight away point at them, okay, be respectful, but point at them and say, this is a gold and you are not lying to me, and just hold the position there and stare at them. And what this does is this natural thing, because especially if people are not used to this, there's this pressure they have on them, and they just react in a certain way. So a good sign that they're lying is that when you do that, and then they instantly go or either they have that, they get like very jumpy, or especially when they get that how you say that, I would call it the guilty smile look, where it's like that little twitch, and they get like no, I'm not lying, kind of thing. When they do that, probably they're lying. Alright, so, and on top of that, this reverse effect, that it brings a attention to him. So again, there's more pressure because other people at the table are looking at him now. And because they take note of that moment, what happens is that I can't prove this, but I feel that it helps that people backstab me less. Because by putting that pressure on them, if they do backstab you, you can point out to everybody, look, remember the time when I did that and I said he will not betray me, and he did, you know. So it puts the huge, everybody remembers that moment, and so you can use that to your advantage when you're discussing, like, look, that's why you can't trust him. Remember I pointed at him that time and he said that, but he actually did betray me. So you can see, again, poker, play the player, not the game. So, you know, that's another tip. Now, the last thing I would say is, if you're interested in using all these poker tells kind of thing, you know, tells are basically micro expressions of the face and body. And if you're interested, there's used to be there is actually a book and a video series by Mike Carroll. I think he calls it the Book of Tells, that you can watch and use the tips there, because they tell about how deception, how the body reacts and everything like that you can use. Now, a note in case that if you're playing poker is totally outdated, if especially go casino, don't bother. Those things most likely will not work. If you're playing a home game, maybe it'll work. But if you're interested, I'll put a link below to the whole video series on YouTube so you can watch it. So that's it. I hope this does help you in your games. Thank you very much. Till next word.